Everyone, welcome back to Life Technologies YouTube channel, and thank you so much for watching and your continued support. So this is part 2 of our Juniper Lab simulation series. Remember, in this series we'll be demonstrating to you step-by-step procedure of how to operate, manage, configure and troubleshoot different networking protocols or technologies on Juniper routing and switching devices. So in our last episode we covered the basics of Junos CLI, the different modes from shell mode to operation mode to configuration mode, and how you can navigate between the different modes. We also discussed the basic CLI commands like show version, show system alarms, show chassis alarms, and many other file operations. And finally, we also discussed how to manage, the different devices, the MX960, which is a router, Juniper QFX switch, and also the SRX firewall. So these are different devices and many other devices that are from Juniper. So if you haven't watched this episode, kindly check it out on our channel. It will give you a basic understanding of how to manage Juniper devices, especially on the CLI operational commands. So in this episode, we'll be focusing on the basic interface configurations on MX routers. You know that when you are setting up the network, it could be lab simulation, it could be a real production network. These are some basic things that you need to do. You should be able to do the basic interface configurations. You need to enable the port before it's patched and confirm that it's up. You need to configure a clear interface description that will help in troubleshooting. You also need to assign an IP address, and sometimes you also need to configure the MTU. So these are some basic operations that you should be able to do when you are setting up your network. So this is the setup that we are using. We have VMX01 and VMX02. These are the two routers, and we have an interconnect between them on the interface GE00. We'll be configuring an IP address of 10.10.10.0/31, and then we will be doing a ping test to confirm that we have reachability between the two routers. So before we move to the lab, I just want to remind you that if you are watching this video and you are yet to subscribe to our channel, kindly hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more upcoming videos and also to support our channel. So I will move to the lab. I'm logged into the two routers. So we have VMX1 and VMX2. Put it side by side. So we have VMX1 and VMX2, and we can start by showing the current configuration. So you can see that these are the basic configuration, and we have a warning that we have a missing mandatory statement, the root authentication. On VMX2 we can also show the configuration. So we'll be running some of these commands just to also remind you of the which configuration, which CLI commands you can use to check different things. So you can see that it's also giving us a warning, root authentication. So we start by configuring the root authentication. And for us to be able to go into the configuration mode, as discussed last time, you need to run the command configure. So when you run the command configure, we use the set command. So you can use the set command. You can use a question mark to see the available options. Set system. You can see that we have these options. These are the options that you can run on this router, and you can see that we have the root authentication, and then when you use a question mark, it's giving you the available options. So you can use the plain text password, enter. I will type Junos at 123, again Junos at 123. So after this, you can use the command show compare to compare between the active and the candidate configuration. So you can see that these are the candidate configurations. So we need to run the command commit. So once we have done this, now we can go ahead and do the other configurations. If you don't set the root authentication, you will not be able to commit any other changes. So you always have to set the root authentication password first, and then you can proceed to do the other configurations. So configure, set system, root authentication, plain text password, and then same Junos at 123. repeat the same password, Junos at 123, show pipe compare. You have your configuration. I see there is also MTU that is not committed, so I'll just commit. We give it some time to finish the commit, so you can exit, show configuration. You now have the root authentication password set. So now we can start our lab. The first step is which interfaces do we have. So we use the command show interfaces, and many times you have options. You see that we have GE001, GE002, GE003. So show interfaces task. This one gives us a summarized detail of the interfaces that we have on this router. So you can see that we are having GE001, GE002, G00, all these are different interfaces on this router. You can view more details using the extensive command or detail. You can go for detail. You can go for extensive, and you will be able to see many details about this interface. So on VMX2, the commit is complete. We'll also exit, show interfaces, task command. You have your G interfaces, so we have the right interfaces. So the next step is to enable or disable ports. So if you check this port, they are all enabled. So when we go to the configuration mode, assuming that the port was disabled, we can enable the port using the set interfaces, that interface, and then delete. We delete the configuration of disable. So I can set interfaces GE 0/0/0 disable, show pipe compare. You can see that we now have disable command. So if I show interfaces, we are in the configuration, so we need to run show interfaces task. We check GE00, we still need to commit. We are yet to commit. Once it's committed, we can run the same command, and now you can see that the admin state of this interface is admin down. So when it's disabled, we can just delete interfaces GE 0/0/0, then we set to disable. So if you run show pipe compare, you can see that we are deleting the statement disable commit. We will have enabled the port. So you delete the statement of interfaces GE00 disable. So that is how you enable the interfaces. So on the VMX, in the lab simulation, all the interfaces are enabled by default. But on a real router, you could get that some interfaces are disabled. So you need to enable the interfaces. The next thing is to configure interface description. So when we check exit, show interfaces description, we don't have any descriptions configured. So for us to configure interface description, it's same. We can set interfaces GE 0/0/0, and then we enter the command description. You give it to VMX2. That is it. Show pipe compare. You have the description of VMX, so commit and quit. Now if I run the same command, show interfaces description, you can see that we now have the description on interface GE 0/0/0. So show interfaces task again. The port is up, so we have a description on this interface. We'll do the same on VMX2. So it's configure set interfaces G0/0/0, and then you give it a description of to VMX1. So that will be the description on the interface. If you run show pipe compare, you have a description added on that interface. You commit, that is it. So you will have configured the interface description on both routers. The next step is to configure the IPv4 address. So for us to configure IPv4 address, we still have to go back to the configuration view, and then on the configuration mode, we set interfaces G0/0/0. You can use a question mark. Many times we need to configure logical units. So this is like a sub interface of the main interface. So we'll use unit 0, and then we need to set the family. So it's family. We are configuring IPv4, so it will be family INET. So Juniper has different families, and then for us to be able to assign an address, we give it family INET address 10.10.10.0, mask is 31. We can use the command show compare. You see that we have unit 0 family INET, and then we have configured the address of 10.10.0 mask is 31. So I'll commit. We'll do the same on VMX2. So we set interfaces G0/0/0 unit 0, and then family, it's still family INET. So you have different families. You can see you have INET 6, ISO, MPLS. We are focusing on INET, and then you give it address of 10.10.10.0. This one should be .1, mask is 31. So we can still run the command show compare. You have your IP address assigned on G0/0/0. So what we can do next is to commit and quit, so that it takes us back to the operation mode. This one we can exit. So show interfaces task. You can see that we have an address assigned on this interface. On this router also show interfaces task. You have an address assigned on this interface. So once we have done that, the next step is we can try to ping 10.10.10.1. You can see that we are able to ping. That is the far end IP. We can also ping from the second router. You can see that we are able to ping between the two routers. Show ARP interface G0/0/0. We are not able to see the ARP, but we are able to ping between the two routers. Let's ping again. If we now show the show configuration, many times we use the command display set so that it's clear, it's easy to read. You can see that these are the configuration that we have done on this interface. First, we gave it a description, and then we configured an IP address on the port. On VMX2, we can do the same. Show configuration, display set. You see that we have the interface set to G000, the MTU. This one we can also set the MTU for our interface. So let's see from here, configure, set interfaces G, and then you can use the command MTU. So MTU, you can use different values. Let's set it to 9,000 to jumbo frames. You use the show compare. You have MTU configured. Commit and quit. We verify that we should be able to ping. Yes, we are able to. So this is how you set the MTU. So if I exit and then configuration checkout, MTU should be in the range of 2000. Okay, I see. So we will recall the same command and see the MTU range that we are given. So this one they have said that we need to be in the range of 2000. So compare. So you always have to read the prompt messages. They give you exactly what you are supposed to do. So commit and quit. So we are okay. Show configuration, display set. You can see that these are the configurations for the interfaces. You are giving it a description. We have set the MTU. We have also assigned an IPv4 address on the port. So on this side, we can also do the same configure, set interfaces G0/0/0, and then MTU, we set it to 2000, show pipe compare to be able to see what we have for the candidate configuration, commit and quit. Then we can see the configuration that we have, show configuration, display set, match G 0/0/0. So you can use this command to just see what you want. Let me see, show configuration, display set. So we have a hyphen. Yeah, we are missing a hyphen here. So you can see that we have a description, we have the MTU, and we have configured an IPv4 address on that interface. So this is how simple it is to configure IP addresses on Juniper devices and other interface parameters like enabling the port, configuring interface description, configuring MTU, and finally assigning an IP address on this. So you can see the configuration in different formats. For example, if you want to see in XML, configuration display set, display XML, can see that it will give you an output of XML, but many times we use the display set because it's clear, it can be easily read and understood compared to the XML format. So this is it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed the session. I hope you've learned something, especially if you are looking forward to understanding how to manage Juniper devices that are in your network, or maybe you are just preparing for a Juniper certification. You also have to understand the CLI. So I hope this session is or will be useful for your studies, and feel free to leave a comment in our comment section, to share this video with your friends or network, to like it, and also if you haven't subscribed to our channel, kindly subscribe and stay tuned for more upcoming videos. Thank you and bye.